Good morning, students. Trust you slept well. This is Madam Glory, your English Studies teacher, with another lesson for the week. And we're going to have a short review of what we did last time. A topic we treated last time. We are going to have a revision on it. And I do hope that at the end of this lesson, you should be able to tell us everything about the active and passive voices of the verb. So today's topic is active and passive construction. And active and passive has to do with the verb, the voice of the verb. Remember that a verb is a word that denotes action or state of being. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain active and passive voices, state the differences between active and passive voice, and change active sentences to passive. Now, in English grammar, like I said, verbs have five properties: the voice, the mood, the tense, the present, and the number. The voice in which the verb is used, the mood in which the verb is used, the tense it is used. Talk about tense, remember? Time. When we say tense, we mean time. That is present tense, past participle, and so on. Then the present in which the verb is used, and the number the verb is used. When we say number, we talk about singular and plural. When we say present, we talk about how many people are we using in the verb, first person, second person, third person, and how it agrees with the verb that is conquered. Here we are concerned with the voice in which the verb is used. We want to talk about the voice in which the verb is used. A verb can be used in the active voice or in the passive voice. A verb can be active or passive in a sentence. When a verb is in the active voice, it means that the sentence has a subject that acts upon its verb. Remember that a subject is that part of the sentence that carries out the action. The subject is that part of the sentence that carries out the action. So when a sentence is active, when it is in the active voice, when the verb in that sentence is in the active voice, it means that the subject acts upon its verb. That means the subject carries out the action. For example, we have Nathaniel counted the money. Nathaniel counted the money. Nathaniel is the subject because he carried out the action of counting, which is the action verb there. The action verb there is counted in the past. The verb there counted is in the past tense and it is the action verb. So Nathaniel carried out the action of counting the money. So Nathaniel becomes the subject and the verb is counted, and then the money is the object. That is what that is the object is the part of the sentence that receives the action of the subject. So the money received the action of counting by Nathaniel. When the subject of a sentence performs the verb's action, we say that that sentence is in the active voice. When the subject comes first in a sentence and is performing the action of the verb directly on the object, we say that that sentence or the verb in that sentence is in the active voice. Sentences in the active voice have a strong, direct, and clear tone, meaning that when the sentence is in the active voice, it gives you a direct meaning, a strong direct meaning. There is no roundabout meaning to it. Like Nathaniel counted the money. Yes, Nathaniel counted the money. Direct and clear tone there. More examples are Favor loves bananas. Favor loves bananas. Favor is the subject. Loves is the singular verb. The singular verb in the present tense. Favor loves bananas. Remember, I told you that when a verb is singular, it carries S. And we use singular verb for singular subject. Favor is one person, so we need to use a singular verb and then we add S to make that verb singular. So we can't say Favor love bananas. No, because Favor is one person. It has to be singular. So it is Favor loves bananas. Favor is the subject, loves is the verb, and bananas is the object. The next one, the dog chased Larry. The dog chased Larry. The dog is carrying out the action of chasing someone, and the person who is receiving that action is Larry. Larry is suffering the action the dog is carrying out. So Larry is the object, while the dog is the subject, and the action is the verb, which is chased. Salome changed the flat tire. Salome changed the flat tire. Salome is the subject carrying out the action of changing something. The action there, the verb there, this time, is in the past tense. It's in the past tense. Changed the flat tire. What did she change? The flat tire, which receives the action Salome carried out. So the flat tire is the object. The active voice follows a clear construction of subject, verb, and object. So when a sentence in the active voice, it will have a subject, it will have a verb, and it will have an object, like the examples we've treated above. And that pattern is quite easy to read. So when we have an active sentence, you should be sure that the subject comes first, then the verb, and then the object. The subject in the active sentence comes first, the verb, and the object. That is the construction, the pattern, or you can call it the formula for active construction. Now, the passive voice or passive construction. The passive voice occurs when the thing or the person that carries out an action, that is the subject, is not the grammatical subject of the sentence. The passive voice occurs when the subject does not come first. That's what I mean by it's not the grammatical subject. Because in grammar, the subject comes first in a sentence. But when the subject does not come first, it comes last. We say that sentence is in the passive voice, is the passive construction. The person or the thing that receives the action is placed before the verb. The object comes before the verb, and then the subject comes last. When you see a sentence where the object comes first, and then the verb follows, and then the subject comes last, that sentence is in the passive form. Passive sentences are formed using the verbs to be combined with a past participle. The verbs to be combined with a past participle. The two verbs that are found in the passive sentence and the passive construction are the verb to be plus a past participle verb, meaning that when you're changing active sentence to passive sentence, your verb in the active sentence, your action verb in the active sentence has to change to a past participle verb in the passive sentence. Remember, past participle means present tense, past tense, and past participle. So when you have an action verb in the active voice and you're asked to change it to passive, make sure that the action verb changes to the past participle form. What do we mean by participle? If we have a word like speak, speak is an action verb, speak. The present tense is speak, the past tense is spoke, and the past participle is spoken. So if a sentence has such a word as speak, when you're changing it to the passive form, speak will become spoken. Speak will become spoken. Okay, so let's have examples. The first one says, the first example we had in the active voice, we're changing it to the passive. The money was counted by Nathaniel. The money was counted by Nathaniel. The money is the object, sorry. The money is the object. The money is the object. Was is the verb to be. Was is the verb to be. Counted is the past participle of count. And then by Nathaniel. Nathaniel is the subject. Please pardon me. The money there is the object. It is not the subject. It is the object. Was is a verb to be. Counted is a past participle verb, action verb of count. And then Nathaniel is the subject. All right. The second example, bananas are loved by favor. Bananas are loved by favor. Bananas is the object. It comes first because it's in the passive voice. Are is the verb to be. Loved is the past participle form of love. And then favor is the subject. Favor is the subject. Larry was chased by the dog. Larry was chased by the dog. Larry is the object coming first. Was is the verb to be. Chase is the past participle form of chase. And the dog is the subject. The last example, the flat tire was changed by Salome. The flat tire was changed by Salome. The flat tire is the object. Was is the verb to be. Change is the past participle of change, and Salome is the subject. Now, let's say the formula for the passive voice. The passive voice follows a construction of object plus verb to be plus past participle verb plus the preposition by plus subject. Object plus the verb to be plus the past participle form of the verb plus the preposition by plus the subject. If you go back to your example, let's see the last example. Object, the flat tire, the verb to be was, past participle verb changed, the preposition by, and the subject Salome. So object plus verb to be plus past participle verb plus the preposition by plus subject. That is how we form our passive voice, passive construction. Now, these verbs to be are in 8 forms. I hope you remember that. The verbs to be are in 8 forms. We have is, are, were, was, been, being, am, and be. All of these verbs to be are used to form the passive construction. All of these verbs to be are used to form the passive construction. Before the past participle verb, one of these verbs comes as a verb to be when forming a passive construction. Now, how do we change from active to passive voice? Let's see examples changing from active to passive voice. As discussed above, the active voice shows clearly in simple words who does what. The active voice shows clearly in simple words who does what. Okay? The active voice shows clearly. I told you the active voice it has a clear tone. It has a direct, clear tone. So it shows you clearly who does what. For example, say Vera swept the class. Vera swept the class. While the passive voice using by to tell who carried out the action, the class was swept by Vera. In the active, we have Vera swept the class directly. In the passive, the class, which is the object, will come first, and then Vera will come last because she is the subject. So in the passive, we say the class was swept by Vera. In the active, we say Vera swept the class. In the passive, we say the class was swept by Vera. Now, it is by that introduces the subject in the passive form. We use the preposition by to introduce the subject in the passive form. Now, sometimes we are not interested in who carried out the action in the passive voice. Sometimes in the passive construction, the subject is not important. All we want to know is the action that was carried out. So we don't use the by and the subject anymore. When that happens, we don't use the by and the subject anymore. It is omitted. According to my note, I said sometimes the doer of the action is not important in the passive voice. So by and the subject is omitted. Example, if I have an active sentence as Wangfong ate the food. active. Wangfeng ate the food. In the passive, it is the food was eaten by Wangfeng, correct? The food was eaten by Wangfeng. What if we don't really want to know who ate the food? We don't want to know who ate the food. We don't want to know who carried out the action. We just say the food was eaten. The food was eaten. That is what we call the passive construction without agent. So the subject in a passive voice is called the agent. When you don't have the subject in the passive form, when the passive construction is written without the subject, we say it is passive without the agent because the subject in the passive voice is called the agent. Okay, I hope you got that. Let's have a short recap of what we have been talking about. Just a short recap of what we have been talking about. If you are with your writing materials, don't forget destiny. Don't forget to rule your margin. Children, do please get a good note and write. Okay. Now, if we're talking about passive and active construction. Passive and active construction. This is just like a revision because we've treated this topic in class. We did that last time. So just like a revision, just like a revision, and I trust that this time you get it clearer than you got it last time. Passive and active construction. Now, I said that in English grammar, verbs have five properties. We have the voice, the mood, the tense, the present, and the number. Active and passive voices are concerned with the voice of the verb. That means the voice in which the verb is used. How are we saying what we are saying is what we mean by the voice. So in the active voice, the active voice means that a sentence has a subject that acts upon its verb. A sentence has a subject that acts upon its verb. Remember what the subject in a sentence is? A subject is the part of the sentence that carries out the action of the verb. So when the subject comes first in a sentence, we say it is that sentence is in the active voice. When a subject comes first in a sentence, we say that the verb of that sentence is in the active voice, like Nathaniel counted the money. Nathaniel counted the money. The sentence is in the active voice. Nathaniel counted the money. The sentence is in the active voice. Okay? When the subject of a sentence performs the verb action, we say that the sentence is in the active voice. Sentences in the active voice have a strong, direct, and clear tone. Sentences in the active voice have a strong, direct, and clear tone. More examples are Favor loves bananas. And I've told you why we did not use love but loves. Why there is S to the verb? Because favor is one person, singular. Favor loves bananas. The dog chased Larry. The dog is the subject, chase is the verb, and Larry is the object. Salome changed the flat tire. Salome changed the flat tire. Salome is a subject. Verb. The verb is changed and the flat tire is the object. The active voice follows the clear construction of subject, verb, and object. Subject plus verb plus object. Okay? Then in the passive voice occurs when the thing or person that performs an action is not the grammatical subject of the sentence. The passive voice occurs when the subject does not take the subject position. That means when the sentence does not begin with a subject. That is when we say that it is in the passive voice. Instead, the person or the thing that receives the action is placed before the verb. In the passive voice, the object comes first, and then there is a verb to be. The object come first, and then there is the verb to be, and then the next one is the past participle form of the verb, and then the subject comes last. In the passive voice, object first, the verb, and then the subject. Let's see examples. Let's see examples. Let's go to the second example. Bananas are loved by Favor. In the active voice, you said Favor loves bananas. Remember that in the active voice, the verb love was present tense. was in the present tense. Now we are changing it to the passive. The action verb is going to be in the past participle form. In the past participle form. So we say bananas are loved by favor. Bananas is the object. Are is a verb to be. Loved is the past participle verb of love. And then by is the preposition and favor is the subject. Larry was chased by the dog. Larry is the object, comes first in the passive. Was is the verb to be. Chase is the past participle form of chase. By is the preposition, and then the dog is the subject. That is how passive voice is constructed. We have the object plus the verb to be plus the past participle verb plus the preposition by plus the subject. It is very easy. The object comes first, followed by a verb to be, followed by a past participle verb, followed by a preposition by. It is the by that introduces the subject to the sentence. The by introduces the subject to the sentence. What what is loved by favor? Who loves bananas? Bananas are loved by favor. Who love bananas? Bananas are loved by favor. So the by introduces the subject of the sentence. Then the verbs to be, remember, are is, are, were, was, being, am, and be. Okay? Is, are, were, was, been, am, and be. And all of these are used in different tense forms. The is used in the singular present tense. Singular present tense. Okay? Are is used in the plural present tense. Where is used in the past tense. Plural past tense. Was is used in the singular past tense. Being is used in the past tense. In the past tense and past participle tense. Being is used in the present continuous tense, and so forth. Then changing from active voice to passive voice. We have examples where we change from active voice to passive voice. Remember, we said that we are changing from active voice to passive voice. The subject in the active voice comes last. The object comes first, and then the verb to be follows the object. The past participle verb follows the verb to be, and then you introduce by, which you use in introducing your subject, which comes last. As discussed above, the active voice shows clearly, in simple words, who does what, while the passive voice using by to tell us who carried out the action. Remember that the action verb should always change to the past participle tense when changing to passive voice. Sometimes the doer of the action is not important in the passive voice, so by and the subject is omitted. Example, one phone ate the food in the active voice, changing to passive to be the food was eaten by one phone. The active the sorry the action verb ate is in the past in the active voice. One ate the food. We are changing it to the past participle. We are changing it to the passive. It has to change to past participle, which is eaten. The food was eaten by one phone. And then when the person that carried out the action is not important, like we said, you omit by and the subject. So we have the food was eaten. Just that the food was eaten. Maybe the person who ate the food is not important. What is important is the action that was carried out and on what. So the food was eaten. The subject in passive voice is called the agent. The subject in passive voice is called the agent. So let's answer a few questions. When is a sentence said to be in the active voice? Can you try that? When is the sentence said to be in the active voice? Nyekpono, can you try that? Can you say it to yourself? Okay. When a sentence is in the active voice, we have the subject coming first and the object comes last. That is when a sentence is said to be in the active voice. When it is clear and direct, tells us clearly who does what, and what was done on what. That is, a sentence is in the active voice. When the subject of the sentence comes first, when the subject of the sentence is acting upon the verb, that is when the sentence is in the active voice. The next question says, state one difference between the active and the passive voices. State one difference between the active and the passive voice. State one difference between the active and the passive voice. Larry, can you try that? Yes, one difference between the active and the passive voice. Ife, can you do that for me? Johnson, can you do that? All right, let's go. One difference between the active and the passive voice is that the while the active voice has the subject coming first, in the passive voice, the subject comes last. And also, in the passive voice, the subject is introduced by a preposition by, while the active voice, the subject is direct, not introduced by any word. Okay? All right, as an assignment, you change the following sentences in their active to passive voice. Change the following sentences in active to passive. Okay? Change the following sentences in active voice to passive voice. The first one is, we are going to watch a movie tonight. We are going to watch a movie tonight. Is in the active voice. We is the subject. Are is verb to be. Going is an action verb. Is an action verb. Going to watch is an action verb, and a movie is the object. So you change it to the passive voice. Okay, change it to the passive voice. Remember, tonight is an adverb. Tonight is an adverb. So the adverb comes after the subject. The adverb comes after the subject when you're changing to passive voice. Okay. The next one is Ife read the novel in one day. Ife, I hope you get this correct. Ife read the novel in one day. Change it to passive. The novel is the object. Ife is the subject. Read is the action. And then in one day is an adverb. All right. The two kings are signing the treaty. The two kings are signing the treaty. The treaty is the object, so you change it. Destiny remodeled the house. Destiny remodeled the house. The house is the object. Change it to passive. The director will give you instructions. Instructions is the object. So it comes first and then you change the rest of it. So that is your assignment. Please do that in your notebook. Do not forget to draw the margin. Do not forget to draw up your margin before writing. Write the topic we treated today and today's date. Do not forget to draw up your margin. Destiny, are you with me? Don't forget to draw up your margin. Okay? So until we meet again next time, I'll be expecting questions, contributions from the feedback channel. Okay? Questions and contributions from the feedback channel. I'll be expecting it. Please be good. Keep to instructions and please stay at home. If you must go out, use your face mask, okay? See you in the next class. Bye.